So I was thinking about Abraham this morning and thinking about how even as Abraham didn't have a Bible like we have, he didn't have a church like we have, he didn't have devotionals and all the things that we have, that Abraham still trusted in God and he still had faith in God. And the Bible talks about how his righteousness was attributed to him because of that faith in God. And I was looking in Hebrews 11, and the book of Hebrews is talking about Abraham and some of the other saints who had faith in God. And it talks about Abraham, and it says, by faith, Abraham, when called to go to a place he would later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. And then later in verse 11, it says, by faith, Abraham, even though he was past age, and Sarah herself was barren, was enabled to become a father, because he considered him faithful who had made the promise. And so from this one man, and he as good as dead, came descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky, and as countless as the sand on the seashore. And then it continues later on in chapter 11, in verse 17. By faith, Abraham, when God tested him, offered Isaac as a sacrifice. He who had received the promises was about to sacrifice his one and only son, even though God had said to him, it is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned. Abraham reasoned that God could raise the dead, and figuratively speaking, he did receive Isaac back from the dead. And it continues to go on listing other people who had faith in God. And at the end of chapter 11, on verse 39, it says, these were all commended for their faith, yet none of them received what they had been promised. God had planned something better for us, so that only together with us would they be made perfect. Last week, my husband and I went and had our will updated. And we have young children at home. So in the case of our death, before our children become adults, our finances are put into what is called a trust. And I'm sure many of you have similar things for your children. But all of the money that my husband and I have worked for, if we die, we don't see that. We won't see the benefits of that. But it goes into a trust so that as our children grow and as our children become older, they will still be taken care of, and that they will still have the things that they need. And so I see that in this way. We see this all the time, that the things that are promised to us don't necessarily come true in our lifetime, but they are things that God has promised. And so they might be part of our heirs. They might be part of the other children in the community that we serve and that we work for. It might be that it goes to our siblings, and not just our financial or our physical things, but we see the blessings that God has given us. They might not come to life in our lifetime, but they might affect those around us. Romans 8:18 also reminds us of this. Yet what we suffer now is nothing compared to the glory he will reveal to us later. And so even some of the things that we receive from God won't be in this lifetime. It will be in heaven, and the blessing that we receive in heaven. And so I think that's part of what Scripture is talking about when it talks about that righteousness being attributed to Abraham, that he will still be in heaven, even though he didn't read the Bible. He didn't know about Christ because Christ came after him. And we have that opportunity to trust as well. And as we trust in God, we will see good things for ourselves, and even more so, we will see good things for those around us.